It's finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show, presented this week by Indiana Racing and the state's Breed Development Fund. I'm Scott Jagow along with Ray Paulick, so glad you could join us. Ray, news this week that was pretty startling, unexpected at least, that Chris Kay has resigned as the CEO of the New York Racing Association. Now, his tenure there has been controversial in some ways, but that's a very difficult job, I would say, to run New York Racing. How do you think his tenure went?
Well, it ended, like you said, shockingly and suddenly. The report said that he was using NYRA employees to do maintenance and yard work at his home, which is something you don't do with a private company, and you certainly don't do it with a company that has as much scrutiny as the New York Racing Association does by politicians and oversight boards and so on. So if those reports are true, it's truly a dumb thing to do.
Yeah.
If you ignore that and look at Chris Kay's tenure there, he got a lot done, in my opinion. He and his team did a lot. Not only did they created the NYRA Bets wagering platform. I think they have the best television signal in the country. They've developed contracts to do many hours of television over the next couple of years on Fox. He's given them long-term viability as an ongoing business, whereas before there's a lot of uncertainty about the future of NYRA. So he did a lot of good things.
Yeah, and financially, I mean, one of the issues with NYRA was that it was in the red, and he helped get it in the black during his tenure. So that's a positive as well. And he had some forward-thinking ideas like night racing at Belmont, plus the whole arena thing with the Islanders coming in and the renovations at Belmont Park. So he had a lot of plans laid out in front of him, and of course now he's not going to be participating in that. The criticism surrounding him is twofold. One is that he jacked up prices across the board on everything, and that upset customers and maybe turned some people off. And the other one was he came in from Toys R Us and didn't have racing knowledge. He called horse races matches when he first came in. And that, of course, triggered a response from, what in the heck are you doing? How could you hire somebody who doesn't know anything about racing? Well, if you look at just about every other major industry in America, they often hire people who don't know anything about their particular business. They're just good leaders and CEOs who see the bigger picture of things, understand business, and can get things done. So, to me, it's really this entrenched, we're never going to change. Why would you hire somebody from the outside mentality that keeps racing down?
Yeah, this is an unforgiving industry in terms of the way outsiders are treated when they come into the business. I've seen many people get run off because of their lack of insider knowledge or the jargon of racing. Chris Kay came in and there's a lot of things he didn't know about racing, but he had people working for him who did know things about racing. And that's the key. As you said, you don't need to come in and have all this insider knowledge as long as you've got people working for you who can help. It's the broad business experience, I think, that is very beneficial. Take a look at probably the most successful company in racing today is Churchill Downs Inc. While I may not like some of the things they do, all you have to do is look at their stock price, look at their success with major events, the Derby and what they've done with that. They, keep adding on new sections of Churchill Downs for Oaks and Derby Day. They had Bob Evans, a guy who came to Churchill Downs from Caterpillar, and he was succeeded by Bill Carstangen, who I think came from General Electric. So, both of those guys came to Churchill Downs without a lot of knowledge, and they built an incredibly successful company.
Yeah, and they came in and learned the business part of it, but they already had expertise in business in general. A quick anecdote from my own career when I used to work for Marketplace on public radio, their whole thought process in hiring was, we want to hire people who are good storytellers, good writers and storytellers. We'll teach you the business side of things, meaning how to cover business itself. So I wasn't an expert in the issue of business. I was a storyteller, and that's how they hired. And that's how a lot of companies look at things. We'll teach you this specific industry, but we want to have the overall talent that you bring to the table to help us either turn around our company or move forward, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's, when I think of his departure, I go back to the previous CEO of NYRA, Charlie Hayward, who really knew horse racing. He was a businessman who was in publishing. He had business experience. He wasn't just a horse racing guy. And he was the horse player's friend. He walked around the place. He knew everybody. And the ironic thing about that was Charlie was terminated. His employment was terminated by the board of directors because there was a slip-up made by NYRA, and they were charging too much for takeout on certain bets. And, so the horse player's friend was let go for maybe doing something that wasn't all that horse player friendly. Chris Kay, who didn't know anything about horse players and horses, came in, and he was terminated, or he was asked to resign as a result, based on these reports, of something that anybody in business should know better than to do, which would be to have an employee work on a personal project. If that's true, he just shouldn't have done it. But the CEO job at NYRA, as I wrote this week, is not a job where they have many gold watch retirements or succession plans. Just about every CEO going back 40 or 50 years kind of resigned very suddenly because of politics, because of state or federal investigations, or the case of Charlie Hayward, the takeout scandal.
Well, New York politics is pretty notorious in all facets, and dealing with New York politicians is often difficult, and dealing with New York fans, quite frankly, can be difficult. And I get why some fans are complaining about the prices. They didn't want to pay for a picnic table at Saratoga. But unfortunately, it's kind of the new reality in all forms of entertainment. I mean, any big event is pricey, and people are willing to pay it, and that's a market. So they're still bringing loads of people into Saratoga, and big events at Belmont, like the Belmont Stakes Festival, which again was created under Kay's tenure. And so if you're not willing to pay it, someone will be willing in this new reality of the entertainment business.
Yeah, I just hope that the successor can continue, along the positive path that I think that's been created. You can't ask somebody to improve their finances and then complain when they take advantage of big events and start charging more. That's a natural thing, as you said. So, I hope that this is a short-term blip for the New York Racing Association. They get back on track and continue the path that they're on.
I'll be interested to see who the next hire is, whether they go inside or outside. Even if you go outside, maybe you can find somebody who has some knowledge of the racing business or some passion for it, but is still somewhat of an outsider, because staying inside in some cases in this business hasn't worked out very well. What do you think? Should it be a prerequisite for these major racing association or racetrack jobs, CEO, president, to have extensive racing knowledge? We have a poll on our website, PaulickReport.com, where you can share your opinions. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show, presented by Indiana Racing and the state's Breed Development Fund. They have more than 20 stakes with $100,000 that are Indiana sired, Indiana bred, and more than $16 million in incentives. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.